Just in Time. Written by Andie Madison. Read for you by Ashton Haugen. Summer! A voice calls above the noise of the airport. I spin to find my best friend Jenna waving her arms above her head to grab my attention. Dropping my suitcase, I run to hug her. I missed her, and seeing her waiting for me at the airport with a smile on her face makes me realize that coming home was the right decision. I want to chat with her over a glass of wine in person and not via opposite screens. We've been hugging each other for a long time, but who cares? Judging by the indulgent smiles of the people around, they find our reunion touching. She takes a step back to better observe me, and I playfully twirl in a circle so she gets the full view. Grinning, she compliments, "You look gorgeous. Your complexion reminds me of a juicy peach." You couldn't compare me to a prettier fruit. Maybe it's because I spent my days eating peaches. She laughs out loud before grabbing my suitcase and heading toward the exit. "Tell me everything," I say impatiently as she drives us downtown. "What would you like to know? We talk almost every day. You don't think I've met the man of my dreams or won the lottery since yesterday, do you?" Her gently mocking tone doesn't affect me. She knows I can't stop asking questions, and I know she isn't really bothered. Who knows? We can't predict when a nice surprise will happen. She shakes her head, smiling. I wish I could feed your optimism, but I have nothing to report. Have you made a decision about what you're going to do professionally? Jenna studied in a prestigious hotel management school, but she still doesn't know what she wants to do. She has so many ideas that it's hard to just pick one and follow through. Her smile dims a bit as she replies, "I was wrong after all. I thought I had the perfect idea, but honestly, I'm not ready to jump into anything. I want to have fun before focusing all my energy toward a job that will consume all my time with no real respite. I want to take some time for myself, travel the world, meet new people. In short, live your life." You don't want to live my life. Yes, I do. I recognize her stubborn streak, but I can be equally stubborn. Tell me what's going on. What? Aren't you glad I'm jealous of you? Of course I am. Who hasn't dreamed of their best friend being jealous of them? One of my greatest wishes just came true. Like Reed says, I'm never happier than when everyone around me envies me. Jenna shakes her head. How you can take Reed's nonsense so lightly is beyond me. Oh, please. I flick my hand in the air in a careless gesture. Reed has the green light to criticize me all he wants. If he ever stops listing my every fault, I'll be forced to do the same, and frankly, I'm not ready to admit that he has any redeeming qualities. But I don't want to talk about your brother. I want to talk about you. Now that I've steered the conversation back on track, I pointedly stare at her while waiting for her answer. She takes a deft turn before turning to me with a serious expression. I'm not lying. I was waiting for you to return so we can talk about it. I'm jealous of you, of your lightness, of your way of seeing the bright side of life, of seeing life in color even when everything's going wrong. I envy your ability to break free from what other people think and to follow your path, she says earnestly. With a sigh, she continues. I'm tired of always thinking about the consequences. I had no idea she was feeling this way. But I set my surprise aside to tell her, Jenna, you know you're talking nonsense. And as your best friend, I owe it to you to point that out. There's nothing wrong with being responsible. My life, as you well know, has its ups and downs, just like everyone else's. Did your breakup with Brian cause all this soul-searching? Yeah, it's possible that was the trigger. But like I told you, I don't spend my days crying over a breakup. Brian is no longer a part of my life, and it's just as well. It's just that I'm 27 years old and full of dreams that I'm never going to fulfill if I don't take action now. I'm so glad you're not sad. It's no secret I've always thought Brian didn't deserve you. If you need more time to decide what you want to do with your life, you should take it. I'm on your side, whatever you choose to do. Jenna smiles at me and replies, That's why I'm glad you're back. I need an ally to convince my mother that I have the right to make my own life decisions. And especially that I don't need a man to be happy. All I want is time for myself right now. Being in a relationship is exhausting. If she wants to have grandchildren, she should harass Rob and Reed. After all, they're already in relationships and seem to be navigating the whole thing quite well. You're right, except... I wince as I picture her mother. I can't see her changing her mind anytime soon. She's convinced that being in a relationship is the key to a fulfilling life. She reminded me of that just last week during our Sunday talk. Yeah, except that you only hear her say it a few Sundays a year, while I'm entitled to her lecture every time I see her. It's my dad's fault. I keep telling him so. If he didn't love her so much, she would have understood a long time ago that being in a relationship doesn't guarantee a happy life. I chuckle while looking around as we drive through downtown toward her parents' house. New boutiques, new cafes. Every time I come back, I feel like I'm rediscovering my city, and that's what I love about it. Madison is a city full of energy. How's Rob? I ask, thinking of her younger brother. Still madly in love with Anissa? You know the drill. He's having fun pushing Mom's buttons, and she only forgives him because he seems to be crazy about Anissa. Mind you, I understand him. That girl must be from another planet. She never complains, and God knows she could find reasons to complain about Rob. I smile at her inability to hide her affectionate tone. Rob is the perfect brother. We're both close to him, and I can't wait to see him. I avoid asking about her oldest brother, Reed, because I know that if I do, Jenna's going to spend the whole trip complaining about his girlfriend, Brittany. No luck, though, she continues. If only Reed could be a little more like Rob. If he stopped working so much, maybe he'd have time to see what a selfish, stuck-up person Brittany is. She only wants to lead him to the altar so she can claim that she won the heart of one of the most sought-after bachelors in town. No one dares to say anything because he has forbidden us from interfering in his life. But that doesn't mean we don't have an opinion. Believe me, my mother is going to explode one day. I just hope I'm there to watch the show. I laugh, but I avoid siding with her. If Reed is with Brittany, it must be because she has some qualities he appreciates. Besides, I can't see him being manipulated by anyone. Do you think their relationship is serious? I ask, unable to curb my curiosity. I'm starting to think so. They've been together for over a year. For Reed, that's a record. And that's what scares my mother. She's afraid that soon Brittany will be part of the family. I'm having trouble seeing Reed moving that fast. In my mind, he'd have to be with someone for 10 years before getting engaged. And then wait another 5 before getting married, just to make sure she checks all the boxes. I check off invisible boxes in the air, pulling a laugh from my friend. But she turns serious again and she says, I wish you were right. Reed is so invested in his work these days that being in a relationship that requires minimal effort is perfect for him. You know he doesn't believe in romantic and eternal love. He thinks all you have to do for a relationship to work is make your choice based on pragmatic criteria. He doesn't see that no one gets along with this woman. Stop it, Jenna. You're exaggerating. Am I? If you want to prove me wrong, go ahead. We both know you can become friends with anyone who crosses your path. I dare you to become friends with Brittany while you're here. I have only met Brittany 3 times. Each time was brief, and we exchanged very few words. But I can understand why Jenna wears that smug expression. Brittany didn't give me the impression of an open, warm, and easy-to-befriend person. You know what? Jenna asks, braking hard at a red light. Maybe you should talk to him. Talk to whom? My adrenaline kicked in. My heart is racing and I've lost track of the conversation. To Reed, of course. Me? You think I should talk to Reed about his relationship? I stare at Jenna as if she's lost her mind. Aren't you forgetting that he doesn't value my opinion in the slightest? Don't you think I'm the last person he'd listen to? Precisely! You have nothing to lose. You're already in his black book. Who knows, though? Maybe your opinion will make him reflect on his relationship, if only a little bit. Seeing her mischievous smile, I can barely keep my stern tone. Not funny. Besides, I don't really know Brittany. What could I say to him? What arguments could I use? What you told me after you first met her. That she's an ice queen. Oh, I forgot I said that. Well, maybe Reed can make her melt. Maybe she has hidden talents. In bed, you mean? Her falsely innocent expression makes me glare at her. Jenna, I don't want to picture Reed and Brittany in bed. I was talking about her cooking skills, for example. I know a lot of people who claim to have won their partner's heart with their cooking skills. No, you don't. That's just a myth. No one falls in love with someone because they know how to cook. If that was the case, I'd have an infinite number of men at my beck and call. Fine. Then maybe she's a good listener and comforts him when he's having trouble with work. What do I know? For one thing, you should have thought about sex first. If you didn't, it's because you don't want to imagine Reed in bed with someone else. And as far as listening to him, the only sound Brittany likes to listen to is the sound of her voice. Oh my God, Jenna, stop bringing up that nonsense about Reed and me. You know there will never be anything between us. You were the first one to point out how frivolous and shallow he thinks I am. She smiles unrepentantly and retorts. Just because he's an idiot doesn't mean I don't hope one day he'll see what a great woman you are. I'd love to fulfill your fantasy, but as a general rule, I prefer to go out with men who have a little respect for me and who appreciate my lifestyle. Reed has always been first in everything, and he believes that if you don't have a purpose in life, you're a dilettante. Personally, I think he's uptight. My favorite adjective to describe him that amuses the whole family. Well, except Reed, because his sense of humor also leaves something to be desired. Well then, let's just hope Brittany doesn't find a way to get her hooks into him. Because if she does, you'll feel guilty knowing you could have stopped her from ruining his life, and you didn't. I roll my eyes at her melodramatic tone. Please stop. When has Reed ever done something he didn't want to do? If he marries her, it'll definitely be because he wanted to. No one's ever been able to influence him. Be that as it may, I don't trust that woman. I think the only reason she's with Reed is that she likes the role of Reed Ryan's girlfriend, the town's golden boy, she mutters with narrowed eyes. Come on, Jenna. No one remembers the days when Reed was a top-level swimmer. That's where you're wrong. He never lost his popularity, and all you have to do is put his name in a search engine to confirm that. But enough about my brothers. Let's talk about you instead. My turn to ask questions. Won't you miss your little island? Happy to move the conversation on from Reed and Brittany, I answer. I will. Living in Sifnos was like living outside the real world. But I've missed you all. It was about time I came home. Before leaving again in a few weeks. I bite my lower lip and she squints at me. Are you planning on staying longer? That's too bad. I thought you'd be leaving soon. And I could come with you. So that your family could accuse me of corrupting you? My family loves you. You know my mother thinks you're the perfect daughter. You can do no wrong. If we make the same mistake, you'll end up a hero and I'll end up the unworthy daughter. Her disillusioned expression brings a smile to my face. I know she exaggerates on purpose. I can't deny, however, that there is some truth to her words. Her mother is like a second mother to me and has always been supportive of my plans. As for her father, he's a permanent ally. He often teases me, asking me how it's possible I never fell in love with any of his sons. I tell him that it is indeed surprising since they're both attractive in their own way. Rob, with his carefree attitude, always smiling and ready to jump into anything, no matter how crazy it may be. And Reed, so much less exuberant, but with a body and a smile to die for. Well, when he deigns to smile, since he thinks we have to earn his smile. But Rob is like my little brother, even though he's 2 years older than me. And Reed is so different from me that imagining us together seems like science fiction. We arrive at Jenna's parents' house, and I take in the familiar view as we approach the front door. Just before ringing the doorbell, I warn her, don't mention your plans to put your career on hold tonight. I might take your mom's side. If I have to choose between her cooking and defending you, she'll win both, hands down. It's okay. You can enjoy my mother's cooking in peace. Although I've never seen you lose your appetite, so I'm not worried about that. Her mother opens the door and invites us in, hugging me for a long moment. I feel at home within minutes. Seeing how happy Jenna's parents are to see me makes my heart grow fonder. Mr. Ryan beckons me to sit beside him on the sofa when we move into the living room.
So, little lady, tell us the news from Greece. What interesting things have you done this year?
Jenna, sitting in a chair across from the sofa, chimes in. It would probably be faster for her to tell us what she hasn't done. Mr. Ryan's eager grin is contagious, and I can't help but return his smile after I grimace at Jenna. Well, I started learning Greek. It was the least I could do, though I'm not yet ready for a philosophical or political debate. It would take me years of practice to be able to take part in such a conversation.
I can only imagine how hard it must be.
I also learned how to make a great iced coffee and cook fish dishes to die for. I'm particularly interested in the latter. Mrs. Ryan chimes in as she serves us each a glass of wine. I take a sip. Oh, I'd be happy to show you some recipes, even though I know you'll master everything before I even finish listing the ingredients.
Don't forget that she's gonna put in her 2 cents, and your recipe will be unrecognizable.
But delicious, I say while throwing myself into Rob's arms, who's just entered from the kitchen door.
Summer, nice to have you with us. I was sure some handsome Greek would manage to keep you there for good.
He spins me around before kissing my forehead affectionately. I almost decided to stay, believe me. But the call from here was louder. I couldn't stay away from you, from all of you.
Even me?
Hearing the deep, provocative voice that I haven't heard in months, I turned toward the newcomer. Jenna didn't tell me Reed would be here, or that Brittany would be accompanying him. I always forget how charismatic he can be. As soon as he walks in a room, he catches all eyes. What's unfair is that he makes no effort and genuinely doesn't care about the effect he has on others. I don't rush toward him. Even if I wanted to, Brittany's cold stare would stop me. However, I keep contact with his green-blue gaze without flinching. It's not the first time I've felt naked under that gaze. Well, not naked in the sense that I'm not wearing clothes, but naked in the sense that I can't hide anything from him. That doesn't mean I'm letting him win this round. I also know how to throw him off balance. I press my hand against my chest over my heart. Even you may not be my favorite, but you still have a special place in my heart. You always will, I say theatrically.
I see you haven't lost any of your comedic skills.
My voice is overly sweet as I say,
Oh, it's so nice of you to acknowledge that. Still trying to charm everyone? Again, that you know me so well goes straight to my heart. I know you. It's the others who have to remember you're only... He stops mid-sentence, probably wondering if it's too soon for the hostilities to begin. I don't let him get away easily, though. Oh, come on. Don't stop now. I'm all ears. What did you want to say? That I'm just passing through before I embark on a new adventure? That I'm only staying until I feel hemmed in? Something like that, he mutters. You don't expect me to feel offended, I hope. In fact, you should try my approach sometime. It might do you good to get out of your prison. His expression darkens, but I ignore him easily as I turn to Brittany with a smile on my face. Good evening, Brittany. That remark doesn't concern you at all, I say candidly. Jenna barely hides her smile, but I continue with the same tone. I was talking about his self-imposed prison of wanting to always be number one. Brittany doesn't seem amused by my explanation, and Reed keeps taunting me. I hope you don't expect me to be offended by what you're saying either. Maybe someday you'll feel the need to have a goal and work toward it to prove to yourself that you can do it. Crossing my arms, I meet his heated stare straight on. Or maybe it's you who realize that opening your wings, discovering new horizons, can be as rewarding as working in an office all day or running after unfaithful husbands or wives. That you know me so well. Reed! His mother's voice startles me. I realize that everyone's staring at us with an amused look on their faces. Not losing his cool, Reed turns to his mother wearing an innocent expression that reminds me that once upon a time, he used to be so much more fun. Hi, Mom. How are you? He comes over to kiss her on the cheek, and she hits him on the shoulder with her towel. Don't start fighting with Summer. You're not teenagers anymore. Fighting with Summer? I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm glad she's here. I bet we'll be treated to a feast tonight, thanks to her. What would I possibly have to complain about? If what Reed says is true, I can only thank you from the bottom of my heart, Mrs. Ryan. You know how much I love being treated like a princess. Reed's eyes wander over the sunny yellow dress I'm wearing, and he says with a smug smile, That's something I don't doubt. His mother shakes her head before turning to Brittany, who seems ready to explode. She hasn't said a word since she arrived, but you have to be blind not to see the steam coming out of her ears. And for good reason, if I have to be fair. Brittany, I'm sorry for failing in all my duties. Please sit down. What would you like to drink? It's hard to focus on anything else when Reed and Summer decide to return to adolescence. Brittany doesn't acknowledge that last remark. She just utters her drink choice as she takes a seat in an open armchair. Rob, however, seems thrilled with the situation. One more reason I missed you, he says, putting his arm around my shoulders. No one knows how to put Reed in his place like you do. I've seen the show dozens of times, yet I never get tired of it. Reed gives him a dark look that Rob ignores as easily as I do. We've joked many times before about our ability to ignore Reed when he's not happy with one of us. He's right that Reed and I started bickering a long time ago. When I was 15, Jenna and I were invited to a party thrown by Ted, a boy I liked. Naturally, I wore my nicest dress and my best shoes hoping to impress him. Reed had agreed to drive us there without much enthusiasm after Jenna and I had harassed him for weeks. He only caved to get rid of us. The problem was that we got a flat tire. When he asked us to help him change it, I refused because I didn't want to get my dress dirty. Reed has never stopped reminding me of that. That day he nicknamed me Princess, and I have since tried to come up with fresh and new ideas to reinforce his negative opinion of me and annoy him. After all, he was being unfair. He knew I wanted to impress Ted. he could have been a little more understanding. To annoy him, I used to put a crown on my head and walk around in the garden when I knew he and his friends were playing basketball.
Anissa will be happy to see you,
Rob says, interrupting my journey to the past.
She was just telling me the other day that we should have come to visit you.
Well, she's right. You should have come. Sifnos is beautiful, and from there, we could easily have visited the rest of the Cyclades. It would have been an unforgettable experience.
We'll have to visit then, if you ever return there.
Summer's thinking of staying, Jenna chimes in.
Staying?
The disbelief in Reed's voice bothers me. Does he always have to be so cynical when it comes to me? Yes, stay! I wince at my defensive tone. Taking a calming breath, I manage to sound almost carefree when I say, I've decided to take your advice and give up my life as a world traveler. I thought you'd applaud my choice.
I'll applaud the day you prove that you can keep your resolutions. We'll see in a few weeks.
Though she doesn't say anything, Brittany is still throwing daggers at me with her eyes, so I decide to keep silent. No need to fan the flames. Reed can say whatever he wants. His opinion doesn't influence my decisions in the slightest. Mrs. Ryan calls us to join her in the dining room, and I breathe a sigh of relief. It was time to change the subject. I may not care about Reed, but his words still stung. Is it so hard to believe that I can settle down? I find out that he's right on one point. Mrs. Ryan did indeed cook some of my favorite dishes, such as grilled sea bass fillets and rice with turmeric and coconut milk. Luckily, apart from a few more cutting remarks between Reed and me, the evening plays out smoothly. Mr. and Mrs. Ryan leave us to go for their daily walk after the meal, and the rest of us head out to the terrace to enjoy a frozen dessert. While Rob and I have fun reminiscing about our vacations together, and Reed claims that he had to save me from myself several times, I can't help but notice that Brittany frowns every time someone speaks to me. My chances of winning the challenge Jenna gave me seem to diminish with every minute that passes. I have no idea what you're talking about. We clearly don't remember things the same way, I say. Reed and I are referring to an incident that happened after a party at a classmate's house. He went back there because I forgot a little notebook that I always carried with me, in which I had written that I was in love with Ted. Still the same Ted, in case you're wondering.
You may have a little memory problem, but I remember your words very well. Reed, please, you can't let me humiliate myself. I'm sure I left it on the bench in the backyard.
Before I can criticize his poor imitation of my voice, he adds,
What you forgot to mention were the 2 dogs that were roaming the garden.
While Rob bursts out laughing, Brittany suddenly stands up and walks into the house. As we watch her go, Jenna leans toward me. If you keep this up, you'll have to forget the invitation to their Christmas party, she whispers. She's far from happy about your conversation with Reed. I've noticed that. But why? She should be thrilled that I'm arguing with him. I whisper back. Oh my God, Summer. Why does everyone think you're so smart? I think you're the only person to believe that, so it's hard to take offense. Although I do hate letting you down. She smacks me lightly in the arm while I take another spoonful of my chocolate dessert. I close my eyes and let its exquisite taste enchant my taste buds. Frankly, it's better than an orgasm, I say with a moan. It's only when I hear Jenna choking that I open my eyes to see Reed staring at me, his mouth open in amazement. If I can still surprise him, I consider this a victory. Don't you agree? I ask him in my most innocent tone. His eyes narrow at me.
Believe me, if your experiences have led you to such a conclusion, you've made one too many bad choices.
Have I? You think a chocolate dessert can't be compared to a sexual experience? You've given me a lot to think about. I've always thought that nothing could compete with chocolate, So what you're saying is that I need to experiment more? Thank you for the suggestion. I promise to take it into account.
I didn't suggest anything of the sort.
His exasperated tone makes me smile inwardly. You didn't? That's what I heard, though. I turned to Jenna and Rob. Don't you agree? Isn't that what Reed just said? That my sexual experiences leave something to be desired and that I should broaden my horizons?
Jenna is laughing wholeheartedly now, and Rob joins in. Reed shakes his head, but it's Brittany's murderous look. She's back, apparently. That makes me feel a little bit in the dock.
Maybe he's right, Rob says. Let's not forget, you've never been in love.
You've never been in love? Brittany has evidently mastered the condescending tone. Of course I have, I say before turning to frown at Rob.
Actually, quite a few times, Reed cuts in.
Changing my frown to a smile, I fake an innocent expression as I tell him, I don't see anything wrong with falling in love. It's magical, and contrary to what you seem to think, I've been lucky enough to have dated some great people. I mean, who knows? Maybe one day I'll meet my Prince Charming, the one who will find a way to prove to me that I'm the most precious being in the world to him and for all eternity. The one who will offer me the kind of life I deserve.
But let's be real. It's completely possible to have a fulfilling sex life without dreaming of spending the rest of your life with your lover. You can trust me on that. Well, I can't prove anything of the sort since I've only had 2 relationships, and they both lasted a while. Longer than they should have, in fact. I've had no time or inclination for fleeting encounters, but if my words throw Reed off, that's good enough for me. If Rob claims I've never been in love, it's because I was the one who took the initiative to break up both times. Truth is, I couldn't stay when our goals started to diverge. It would be unfair for both of us if we had to fake our feelings in order to get along. Brittany stares at me with a haughty air. Waiting for a man to offer you the life you're dreaming of is demeaning for any woman. Even you can understand that, can't you? Even me? I can't wait to see how she turns this out. From what I understand, you're a free spirit. You've never had any specific plans in life, and you're always wandering from one place to another. I let out an exaggerated sigh of relief. Oh, all right. For a moment there, I thought you were going to insult me. Thank you for only mentioning my unique talent of living life to the fullest. I confess I impress myself sometimes. She opens her eyes wide, and I can see that she thinks I didn't understand what she meant, but I'm not going to let her know that her words affect me in any way. My parents were killed in a car accident when I was 16, and I promised myself that I would do whatever it takes to live my life on my own terms and have the life I dream of. I don't owe anyone an explanation for my life choices. I worked as a teenage model for 3 years when I was in high school and made enough money to pay for my college education. I've always been independent, and although my parents left me a substantial amount of money, I've never touched it. I'm going to use it someday, but I don't know how yet. For now, I make my living working as a translator of children's books, while doing other odd jobs at the places I visit. This year, I ran a cafe on the island of Sifnos in the Cyclades, and I loved the experience. The year before, I helped a team of young entrepreneurs in Taormina, in Sicily, design a website for their online shop selling regional products. I translated articles for them and helped them spread the word by asking friends in the marketing field to help us. I love to learn, so I seized the opportunity to improve my Italian and to study at a pizza school during my stay in Italy. I don't cook often, but I love learning new recipes, and now I know how to make pizza dough like no one else. However, trying to explain all this to Reed is pointless. All he sees is a superficial young woman who does nothing to conform to society's rules.
The thing that bothers me about all this is that we used to get along well. There were times when we had serious conversations about politics, philosophy, economics, and the state of the world in general. But these days, he prefers to confine me to the role he's chosen for me. Seeing him smiling at Brittany, I feel a twinge in my heart. I wonder why it's easy for him to ignore the unsympathetic sides of her, but he has to make a big deal out of what he doesn't like about me. Well, maybe that's what being in love is all about. I console myself as I eat another spoonful of my dessert. Soon after, Mr. and Mrs. Ryan return, and I can finally breathe again. The conversation moves to their upcoming retirement plans, which is a much less thorny subject than my love life. Half an hour later, I leave Brittany, Jenna, and her parents talking about the merits of a secondary residence and head to the kitchen. Rob and Reed disappeared a while ago, and I'm pouring myself a glass of water when I hear them talking quietly nearby. I spot them from the kitchen window a little farther out in the garden. Stepping outside to join them, I stop when I overhear them, intrigued by their words. They are so focused on their discussion that they don't even notice me.
Are you sure everything's gonna be all right?
Rob sounds worried, but Reed reassures him.
Yes, I am. You know I never leave anything to chance. Trust me, it'll be a total surprise. I do trust you. What worries me is that Brittany might suspect something if she sees you acting strangely. If there's one of us who's likely to mess up, it's you. Trust me, Brittany won't find out. And let's hope you don't forget the ring, 'cause I can't imagine successfully proposing without a ring. Believe me, I know how important this evening is. I am not gonna forget the ring.
I can barely hold back a scream. A ring? Jenna was right. Reed is being manipulated by Brittany. As soon as the thought crosses my mind, I feel guilty. Reed's happy at the prospect of proposing to Brittany. I could hear it in his voice. It turns out I was right. They do have a relationship that Jenna and I can't understand.
Let's go back inside and prepare the ground,
Rob says, taking a step toward me. I rush back into the house and join the others again on the terrace. I admit I can't believe Reed is going to propose. Yet there's no room for doubt when a few minutes later, Rob announces,
"We have a surprise for you. As you know, next week is Reed's birthday. And as you also know, he hates celebrating it. However, for his 30th birthday, I couldn't pass up the opportunity to throw him a party. So we're all going to get together on Saturday at the Far Niente restaurant for a birthday party that I promise will be unforgettable."
Aside from me, who was a privileged witness of the conversation between the two brothers, the others don't suspect a thing and rejoice in the news. "Darling, that's a wonderful idea." His mother seems to be over the moon, and I understand. Reed has always refused to give in to her attempts to throw him a birthday party ever since he turned 12. "I hope that when you say unforgettable, you mean that there will be champagne, several delicious cakes, and a meal worthy of the name," Jenna says.
"Of course! Reed may not know how to throw a party, but I do."
Rob grins widely as Reed frowns at him. Everybody's thrilled. I wonder if they still would be, if they knew what is really going on. But I can't deny that it's the perfect opportunity for a proposal if you want the other person to be surprised. The bride-to-be won't suspect a thing. I may not particularly like Brittany, but I trust Reed. If he's choosing to propose to her, she must have some positive qualities, and I'm sure he loves her, which is all that matters. While the discussion focuses on details such as the number of guests and the dress code, I remain silent, which soon draws attention.
"Don't tell me. You're thinking about what to get Reed."
Rob guesses. Everybody laughs because they know Reed and I are in the habit of exchanging gifts that are pretty unexpected. For Christmas, he gave me a planner. I gave him the Remington Steel Series box set. I told him that if he took the time to study Remington style, he'd finally be able to combine charm and efficiency. I let him choose what part he was lacking. I wonder what I could offer him this year. I had no idea yet, but I answer with a smile. Count on me to find the perfect gift. An engagement gift as much as a birthday present. It's a good challenge. I should be able to take it up. I swallow a sip from my glass of wine. An hour later, just before I'm about to leave, Mrs. Ryan takes me aside. Honey, I haven't had time to chat with you alone. Call me later in the week so we can get together. I can't wait to hear what you've accomplished since the last time you were here. Pay no attention to Reed. He adores you deep down, and he's proud of you just like we are. I promise, I say, moved as always by her kindness toward me. If she hadn't been there for me when I lost my parents, I don't know how I would have survived. She's completely wrong about her son, though, but it's not important. I can live with Reed's criticism. Reed, who has just come up to me, asks,
Is everything all right?
Yes, of course. Trying to wear such a broad smile makes my face hurt. He narrows his eyes, which reminds me that somehow he's always been able to guess my true state of mind, so I exaggerate a bit more. I'm excited about the prospect of a night of partying. I'm glad you didn't make a fuss about canceling it.
Always ready to do whatever it takes to see your smile.
You know, if you put a little more sarcasm in your voice, you might even be more convincing. Just a little friendly advice.
I'll do better next time. Welcome home.
He leans over to kiss me on the cheek before he leaves with Brittany, clinging to his arm like a castaway on a buoy. I may accuse Reed of lacking imagination, but sometimes he manages to surprise me. Tonight is the perfect example. Contrary to what we might all have expected from him, his proposal is going to be romantic. And I have a little trouble associating the word romantic with Reed. I suppose it's true what they say. Love changes a man. Probably a woman too. How would I know? They're right. I've never truly been in love. Jenna insists I sleep over tonight, and I don't protest. Maybe I should have, because she keeps asking me questions about what's going on, and no matter how many times I tell her everything's fine, she doesn't seem convinced. I manage to avoid her questions by pretending I'm exhausted from the trip. She casts me a doubtful look. She knows traveling never tires me, but I can't betray Rob and Reed. They don't want anyone to know, and I'm fully aware that if I told Jenna, or anyone else for that matter, it would be a mistake. The next few days go by in a flash. I meet with friends, visit the city's new natural museum, go out with Jenna, and talk about this and that at either her place or mine. But I can't stop thinking about the conversation I witnessed. I could talk to Reed and tell him that I know, but to what end? I can't tell him that I think marrying Brittany is a hasty decision. I don't really know her. And just because we don't get along doesn't mean I know what kind of relationship she and Reed have. She may very well be the perfect woman for him. Even though I try to convince myself that everything is fine, a feeling of uneasiness doesn't leave me the whole week. Jenna notices, of course, that I'm a little out of sorts, and she tries to get information out of me, but I resist the urge to confide in her. I already know how she'll take the news, and I can imagine Reed's reaction when he finds out that I'm the one who revealed his secret. Somehow I manage to avoid her questions and hold my tongue until the big day. On Saturday night, I feel relieved that the moment of truth is finally here, and that I won't have to pay attention to every word I say, but a feeling of sadness envelops me as well. Reed will be married soon, and nothing will ever be the same again. I even wonder if I should attend the party. It's not like he's going to miss me. I bet Brittany would be thrilled if I skipped it, but I also tell myself that we are close despite our differences, and I can't miss such an important moment in his life. I'm trying on my third outfit when I pause and sigh. Why do I feel the urge to look pretty? Reed accuses me of paying too much attention to my wardrobe and wearing unique things, which is not meant to be taken as a compliment. He's wrong, though. Whether I'm in jeans or a long dress, I don't usually spend more than a few minutes in front of the mirror. So why do I feel the need to shine tonight? I have no reason to try so hard. A light summer dress, perfect for a warm evening in early May, a pair of sandals, and a little makeup will do. It's Brittany's night after all. 10 minutes later, I'm on my way to the restaurant, and I practice both my initial reaction to the news and how I will congratulate Reed. For once, I don't feel like bickering with him. I want him to know that I sincerely wish him happiness. When I arrive, the person at the front desk leads me to the room Rob has rented, and I notice that several guests, including a few members of the extended Ryan family, are already there. I see Anissa wearing a red dress that accentuates her glowing skin and waving at me as she approaches.
Summer, you look great.
Thank you. You too. How are things going?
Everything's fine, except Rob invited my mom, and my mom, she'll ask me for the umpteenth time when Rob and I will get married. I tried to persuade him not to invite my parents, but he said, we're a family now, and everyone should be here for Reed. He's not wrong, but it doesn't really work for me.
Maybe I can distract her by talking to her about my travels? I offer, which brings a smile to her face.
That would be great. It would give me a moment of peace. She already told me that I should have chosen a less revealing dress and that I should work less because Rob won't put up with the hours I'm working for long.
I set a hand on her shoulder and say, consider it done. Moms love me, and I have enough topics to discuss to make her completely forget about you and Rob. In return, you must help me find a nice pair of sandals for this summer. Anissa owns 2 shoe stores in town that are among my favorites, so it should be an easy task for her. She readily agrees.
Whatever you want. I started working with a new designer you're gonna love. You can come by any time.
Let me guess. You're talking about shoes,
a voice says. Turning to greet the newcomer, my gaze locks with Reed's. I see an amused glow dancing in his eyes. His dark green shirt accentuates the green in his eyes. It reminds me how much he can communicate his mood with his eyes. He looks relaxed, which is surprising, but also makes sense. He's happy with his decision, which makes me happy too. You're starting to sound like a broken record, I say to myself as I grab a glass of champagne from a nearby table and gulp it down. What's happening to me? I'm happy for him. Aren't I? What do you think? Silence, I see. You don't have any more answers than I do, so let's go with my version. You look very elegant. He's wearing a jacket without a tie and looks like a male model. I won't pretend I don't see how attractive he is. I'm not blind. My compliment doesn't seem to have affected him, though.
Are you planning on getting drunk already?
He asks, eyebrows raised. Champagne has no effect on me.
You don't like champagne.
Tonight I do, I retort as I take another sip to prove my point. Champagne is too perfect of a drink for important events to pass up. Happy birthday, by the way. It's not that I don't like champagne, it's more that champagne doesn't like me. Reed saw the results twice when I was younger. That said, if we don't drink champagne at a friend's secret engagement parties, when will we?
I'm afraid of what you might do if you drink one too many,
he says, his expression concerned, or rather, dismayed. I won't let him ruin my forced good mood, though. After all, I'm trying so hard to be happy for him that the least he could do is let me drink my champagne in peace. Since he's still standing there staring at me, I try to turn his attention elsewhere when I spot Brittany walking in. There's your future. I pull myself together in time to stop. He follows my gaze and freezes as he takes in her appearance. She looks stunning, wearing a golden dress that emphasizes her curves and makes her stand out. It's the perfect dress for a proposal, and even more so for what will follow. Reed smiles at her, and after giving me one last admonishing look about the champagne, walks toward her. I should take his advice and refrain from drinking, but I can't resist a second glass. And this time, it's Anissa who looks worried. Summer, is everything okay? Are you sure they're drinking champagne? Reed said, yeah, everything's fine. Reed always exaggerates when he talks about me. Her dubious look makes me add, believe me, the only thing that might happen is embarrassing myself by admitting that when my first boyfriend tried to kiss me, I knocked him down. She lets out a hearty laugh.
What? You have to tell me this story.
I will, but first let's go find your parents, I say, linking my arm through hers. I'll distract them while you and Rob make out in some dark corner. Summer! Okay, you're right. I've been dreaming about being alone with Rob. I've barely seen him all week. I meet Brittany's gaze as we walk past her. She wears a triumphant expression. I nearly stumble over my own feet. Oh my God, she knows. I have no idea how she found out, but I'm sure she knows, which explains the perfect dress. My efforts to keep this under wraps were in vain. I hope Reed and Rob won't be too disappointed. I chat for a while with Anissa's parents until Mrs. Ryan approaches to introduce them to some members of the family. I slip away to join Jenna, who's been waving at me for some time. You are beautiful, I say sincerely. She's wearing a short emerald dress that fits her perfectly. Thanks, but I don't think anyone can outshine Brittany tonight, she replies, her eyes narrowed in a glare at Brittany across the room. I wonder what her gift to Reed will be. I hope it's better than the overpriced face cream she gave me for Christmas, saying I'll be needing it soon. I'm trying to hold in my laugh, but it's a losing battle. I know the story because Jenna was beside herself at the time, but I pointed out to her that, on the contrary, she should be thrilled. You can't say no to a $200 cream, even when it comes wrapped in an insult. My spontaneous laughter attracts the attention of the people around us who look at me smiling. Only Reed wears a stern look on his face as he approaches us.
Summer, I warned you to stop drinking. May I remind you that tonight you're not the star of the party? Can't you make an effort for once?
Jenna glares at him. What's the matter with you? We aren't allowed to laugh now?
I know what you and Summer are capable of. I just don't want the night to be ruined, that's all.
He mumbles. I stare him down with a frown, my fists pressed to my hips. No one wants to ruin your party. You have nothing to worry about. I promise you it will be a night to remember, that everything will go smoothly. Famous last words. He narrows his eyes at me as if he suspects that my words are hiding a message. But I hold his gaze without blinking.
I'd like to say that I trust you, that I trust you both, but I would be lying.
He says, not the least bit moved by our indignation. Jenna looks at him with concern. For someone celebrating his birthday, you're pretty cranky all of a sudden. Is everything okay? Maybe he realizes that 3 is not his number, I say confrontationally. I hope that when I turn 30, I won't panic and do something stupid. All right, it looks like Reed's right for once. I should refrain from drinking champagne.
Do you really want to go there?
Although his tone is serious, I can see he's holding back a smile. Why are you so predictable? I even know your insults by heart. You should know, however, that to date, I haven't made any decisions I've come to regret. Can you say the same? Better yet, will you be able to say the same at the end of the evening? Oh well, so much for keeping my mouth shut, but I guess I can't seem to help it around him. Jenna looks puzzled and Reed seems ready to rip into me. I better get my act together. I mean, on one's birthday, you never know what might happen.
Yes, one could almost skinny dip,
he says with a teasing lift of his eyebrow. This time the amusement is definitely present in his voice. He's referring to my 25th birthday when I threw a party on the beach, and at the end of the evening I persuaded everyone to take a midnight swim. It's not my fault that I lost my bathing suit top and Reed had no other choice but to go and search for it in the dark. Yeah, I can tell you he was far from happy. You can complain all you want, but the memory makes you smile. The question is, why does seeing him smile make me feel, what's the word? vulnerable. My throat feels tight as I realize tonight will be the last time Reed and I will talk while we're both single. So what? What difference does it make to you? I chastise myself. It's not like you're interested in Reed. Can you imagine being with him? No, of course not. Why would you want to imagine something like that? Summer, what were you planning on giving Reed? Maybe you can change his Grinch demeanor. Jenna's voice brings me down to earth and makes me forget my silly thoughts. For once, he has nothing to worry about. I've decided to give him a regular, uncreative gift. I thought I could be an adult, so I decided to offer them a weekend at a romantic inn. It's an appropriate gift for a couple, because this isn't his birthday party. It's his engagement party. I suddenly need some air. I need to get away from the future for a moment. I have to make a phone call. I'll be right back. I stride out of the room while Jenna and Reed watch in surprise. Heading out into the garden, I walk briskly for a few minutes, trying to clear my thoughts before I make my way to the small lake at the back of the garden. The place is dimly lit, and when I spot a couple kissing behind the big oak tree, I smile. Jenna and I have always said that this was the perfect place for a makeout session, and apparently others feel the same way. I love seeing people in love. I stop to smell the flowers with my eyes closed. I wonder if one day I'll be the one whose boyfriend will prepare a surprise proposal like the one Reed prepared for Brittany. When I open them again and get used to the darkness, I think I recognize Brittany as the woman who lets out a sigh when her companion pulls down the strap of her dress to kiss her shoulder. Oh no, that's all I needed, to see Brittany and Reed kissing. Actually doing more than kissing, I realize, when Brittany's leg wraps around him. The show is becoming too hot for me, so I'm about to turn around and go back inside when they move away from each other and start arguing. She takes a step toward me and he tries to hold her by the hand. That's when I realize that the man isn't Reed. My jaw drops in shock. My brain tries to deny what my eyes are witnessing, but it's confirmed when I hear Brittany say, "You should have never come here. I told you 1,000 times that I'm going to accept Reed's proposal. I was honest with you. I told you the same day I found the ring." I can barely hold back a scream. Brittany's cheating on Reed, and worse, she's about to accept his proposal while a minute ago she was playing the femme fatale with someone else.
Britt.
His begging tone does nothing to soften her as she turns away from him. Luckily, she passes near me without seeing me and rushes inside the restaurant. The man storms off in the opposite direction. Still too shaken to move, I stay put, not knowing what to think. I have to talk to Reed. I can't let him propose to her now. But do I have the right to intervene? My feet carry me back and forth as I wonder what to do. After all, I've no idea what kind of relationship they have. Maybe they've decided that having an open relationship isn't a big deal. Who am I to judge them? But no, Reed has mentioned several times in the past how important being faithful in a relationship is to him. How many times did he get into an argument with Rob, who dated 2 girls at the same time in college? He couldn't have changed that much. I stop pacing and sit on the bench, holding my head in my hands. Why do people think gardens are the ideal place to talk in secret? And why do I always have the misfortune of running into them? A few minutes later, Jenna sends me a message to let me know that dinner is about to start. I have to go in and join them. I walk back, put a fake smile on my face, and take a seat around a table full of appetizing dishes next to Jenna. But despite my efforts, can't look away from Reed and Brittany, who are sitting across from me talking in low voices and staring into each other's eyes. Awesome. All I have to do is wait for Reed to stand up and ask her, "Will you be my wife?" to have the perfect evening. No! The word I meant to say internally escaped my lips instead. My table neighbor stopped eating to stare at me in disbelief. Cheeks flaming, I scrambled to come up with an excuse. Sorry, I was thinking about all this delicious food and how hard it is to say no. Everyone laughs, and some even agree with me, but I'm not relieved. How am I going to make it through the night if I can't shut up for a few minutes? This time, white wine is served at the table, and although I know I should abstain, I grab a glass, telling myself that it will probably help me to stop thinking about that cheating hypocrite who's now whispering who knows what into Reed's ear. She's probably promising him a crazy night if I'm to believe the heated look in her eyes and the way her fingers caress the nape of his neck. I hate relationships. I'm going to stay single my whole life, I mumble to Jenna. She looks at me with wide eyes, intrigued. You don't hate relationships. You just haven't found the right person. But you've definitely been off your game for a few days. Tonight you're sleeping over at my place and telling me what's going on with you. Yes, I can do that. In a few hours I'll have nothing to hide from her anymore. But I swear I'm telling you the truth about relationships. I'll never trust anyone. She shakes her head. Need I remind you that you trust everyone? Fine. I won't trust anyone anymore. Oh, darling, you're young. With age, you'll understand that although love isn't simple, life is worthless without love. Chimes in Aunt Tessa, Mrs. Ryan's sister, and the family's favorite person. I wonder if she didn't just resolve my dilemma. Yes, love isn't simple, and relationships are even less so. Reed is an adult. He can take care of himself. He doesn't need me. Therefore, I have no reason to feel guilty about not telling him the truth about his darling. I can finally breathe knowing I made the right decision. I didn't meddle in another person's relationship. I'm pretty proud of myself. I can now enjoy the appetizer, smoked salmon paired with delicious grilled fennel wedges, in peace. I do justice to all the dishes and chat happily with the other guests. As long as I don't meet Reed's gaze, everything's fine. The meal doesn't last forever, though. When the music begins and a few venture out onto the dance floor, my doubts return. Instead of joining them, I stand in front of the window looking at the garden, which I now view as the scene of the crime. Is everything okay? Of all the people in the room, why does Reed have to be the one asking me that? Why must the universe make my task so complicated? Why do you ask?
Because you seem a little off, and I don't like to see you like this,
he says, his voice low and worried. Like what? I meet his gaze, but I can't hold it. The view outside the window is much safer.
Yes, with that defeated expression.
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm having a great time tonight, I defend, still avoiding his gaze.
You mean you're pretending to have a great time?
Tears begin to well up in my eyes. Now isn't the time to think about how easily he can read my mind. I'm hiding behind a pathetic response. Finally, turning to face him, I retort. Sorry to disappoint you, but I'm having a great time. You don't know me as well as you think you do. Besides, I thought that seeing me in a good mood all the time bothered you, so what are you complaining about?
Maybe, but at the same time it gives me a chance to tease you without feeling guilty.
Oh, that's what you've been doing? I had this crazy idea that you were insulting me.
Why would you ever think that? You and I are just being honest with each other. We both know that our relationship is strong enough not to break because we don't treat each other with kid gloves. You know that deep down, you're my favorite person, right? Who else manages to make my life so interesting?
I'm bewildered by his response. Wait a minute. Is there a camera around here somewhere?
Always a funny thing to say.
Reed?
Yes?
His gaze is so deep. Why is his gaze so deep? Does he really care about me? Yes, of course he does. No matter how much we bicker, he knows I love him. Mrs. Ryan thinks he loves me too. And a mother knows her children, right? I should trust her judgment and not give in to my fear that Reed finds me truly impossible. Are you happy? I ask quietly, watching him intently. He remains silent for a few seconds.
Probably not by your standards. But I like my life. Everything's fine.
Fine? Is that really the word you want to describe your life? Why would you settle for fine when you can be happy?
I am happy, Summer. I have a fulfilling professional and personal life. I'm not looking for absolute happiness like you or my sister. I don't believe in absolute happiness. It only exists in people's imaginations, especially young women who refuse to grow up. I even wonder if you're the only one who believes in it these days.
That's a shame. If you believed in happiness, you might be happy. And trust me, being happy isn't a utopian concept. You just need to open your heart to new experiences to...
What are you two discussing alone in the corner?
Rob interrupts. I sigh inwardly. I wanted so badly to continue this conversation, to figure out if I made the right decision.
We're talking about fairy tales. Summer wants to persuade me there is such a thing as happiness.
Reed exaggerates every word.
Summer's right, although she's fighting a lost cause.
Reed lets out a mocking laugh that earns him an indulgent look from Rob, who turns to me.
Pay no attention to him. He doesn't know what he's missing. You should know, however, that choosing his birthday party to lure him into the dark side of happiness isn't your best idea.
With a mischievous twinkle in his eye, Rob continues.
Instead, you should invite him to a romantic dinner and show him that happiness begins when you look into your partner's eyes and see your future.
Standing on tiptoe, I kiss him on the cheek. Oh, I love seeing you in love. I doubt I'm the best person to persuade him of that, however. Reed wants a perfect woman, a woman who succeeds at everything she undertakes. You know I'm far from perfect.
I disagree. I, for one, think you're perfect. Wouldn't you agree, Reed?
He asks, nudging his brother in the shoulder.
Who am I to go against the rest of the male population?
What? Male only? I still have a long way to go. I flutter my eyelashes, pretending that this is normal, that this discussion is like any other we've had in the past is essential, so that I don't fall to pieces.
While I'd love to see you persuade Reed that happiness exists, it's time to open the presents,
Rob says. Reed's grimace doesn't escape me. He doesn't particularly like opening presents, which makes me smile. We walk over to the table where the presents are laid out and everyone has fun commenting on the gifts as Reed opens them. He manages to play along, which honestly impresses me. Brittany gives him a picture frame, and I can't help but think he's going to use it for their first photo as an engaged couple. I can't believe that Reed is going to keep that flashy and gaudy frame on his desk.
Summer, where's your present?
Rob turns toward me with a disappointed pout when all the presents are open. Anissa gives him a stern look.
Honey, you don't ask a person in front of everyone if they brought a gift to a birthday party.
To someone else, maybe not. But to Summer, yes. She knows I've been waiting for this moment all night. The moment I get to see Reed turn red, whether from anger or embarrassment.
I'm sorry, but for once, Rob, I'm gonna let you down. You won't get it until the end of the night. After all, he needs to have something to look forward to, I say lightly. It comes with a message that's more appropriate for the end of the evening. Laughter fills the air, and Rob says, "You better be on top of it because you've just robbed me of one of the most eagerly awaited moments of the evening. Now, since we're done with the presents, it's time to get back to the dance floor." I don't want to dance, but Rob leaves me no choice. In the end, it turns out to be a good idea. It allows me to forget what I saw in the garden. I dance with several people, but what I enjoy the most is teaching Sierra, Jenna's little cousin, to twirl, like she says, with a contagious giggle. After dancing half an hour without a break, I find an open chair to occupy for a few moments to spare my feet. I've only just sat down when Reed takes a seat next to me.
I never expected to see the prom queen tired.
You clearly reminded me earlier that I'm not the queen tonight, which is fair since the queen should be the king's significant other.
That's not exactly what I said, but let's assume it's true. If so, who are you then? You can tell me your story during a dance,
he says, holding a hand out. I put my hand in his, and he gently tugs me up to lead me onto the dance floor. As we find an open space among the dancers, I realize it's been years since Reed and I danced together. It's happened a few times in the past, but tonight it seems like a distant memory. When he repeats his earlier question while we're dancing, I answer in my best storyteller voice. I'm the poor, awkward cousin who will always be in the shadow of the queen. The one who's madly in love with the king but knows that she'll always be invisible to him, so she has no choice but to hide her feelings deep in her heart forever.
Nice story, but I doubt it's all the queen's fault. You can try as hard as you want, you're never gonna convince me that you like the queen. It's written all over your face that you don't. The question is, why? And I've got a pretty good idea of the answer. As a matter of fact, you just confirmed my suspicions. Who knows, though? Maybe the king sees her. Maybe he thinks about her day and night. You can't know what lies in his heart.
I give him a coy smile. Are you flirting with me? He nudges me back into motion.
Am I? Because I was about to ask you the same question.
The fiery glower I send his way makes him laugh. Wisely, he avoids provoking me further, and my ire cools as we move to the rhythm. For a few moments, I feel at peace, managing to forget about Brittany and her shenanigans. I concentrate on the feeling of happiness I feel dancing with Reed without arguing. Unfortunately, it's a fleeting moment. Brittany interrupts us. Seeing her put a possessive hand on Reed's shoulder, I feel my protective instincts awaken. This woman is cheating on him, and she clearly feels no remorse about it if she's planning to accept his proposal. I shouldn't be talking to Reed. I should be talking to her. That's what I should do, confront her. I don't have time to put my plan into action. The music stops and I see Rob waving at Reed to join him. Reed thanks me for the dance and moves to the center of the room. Smiling, he grabs a microphone and starts talking. I have trouble concentrating on what he is saying because everything has begun to spin. My thoughts are no longer clear, but I know that I can't let him be manipulated by this minx. I manage to focus in time to hear him say that he hopes everyone is having a good night and that the party isn't over yet. A big surprise is coming up. Murmurs can be heard all around, but silence follows when he begins to speak again. Everyone is eager to know what the surprise could be.
But I'm not going to keep the suspense up if...
He puts his hand in his pocket. The walls are closing in and I've suddenly run out of air. No! When all eyes turn toward me, I realize that I've once again expressed my internal thoughts out loud. I should probably stop and think before I utter another word, but I do what Reed accuses me of all the time. I talk without thinking. In the complete silence that came to reign in the room, I continue. Reed, please, don't do this. I've always been in love with you, and I know this isn't the right time, but if I let you go on, if I let you propose, I'll regret it forever. Please, give me a chance to talk to you. Summer! Jenna's worried tone penetrates my brain, but it's Reed's icy voice that gives me a reality check. I swear I wasn't planning on saying anything like that.
What on earth are you talking about?
His steely tone should be enough to make me reconsider my decision, but I realize it's too late now. I can't turn back time. I can't pretend I didn't say anything. I'm in love with you. Please, don't propose to Brittany, not until you listen to me. You're such a hypocrite. Brittany storms up to me. I knew you had your eye on him. I knew it. I told him several times, but of course, he wouldn't listen. I should feel threatened by the way she points her finger at me, too close to my face, but I don't pay any attention to her. I only look at Reed, who seems, for once, at a loss for words. Reed, were you planning on proposing to Brittany? Jenna asks, her gaze bouncing from Reed to Brittany to me, then back to Reed. Jenna's tone is devoid of emotion, but Reed's is full of indignation when he snaps.
Don't be ridiculous.
At least this time, the collective O isn't because of me. Brittany's livid, and understandably so. Ridiculous? You think proposing to me is ridiculous? She screeches at him. He doesn't seem fazed by her outburst if his cold and well-controlled voice is any indication.
That's not what I said. The question is whether I was going to propose to you tonight, and the answer is simply that I wasn't. That's all I meant.
Count on Reed to rationalize everything. Too late to retrieve his words, I think, but I'm not feeling any joy at the thought. I may have achieved my goal, but everyone must despise me right now, especially Reed. Reed, who's the only one I care about. Reed, whose reaction I don't understand. Did he just say he wasn't planning on proposing to Brittany tonight? Brittany isn't ready to let it go, though. I found the ring. You were going to do it before that little schemer made her announcement.
The ring?
He asks, his brow furrowed in confusion. She ignores his question and continues. You have feelings for her, don't you? That's why you suddenly think it's ridiculous to ask me to marry you. Well, she's all yours.
Brittany, please stop. I don't have feelings for Summer.
Thank you. It's nice to be rejected in such a clear and definitive way, I say, trying to lighten the mood. But the few laughs I hear are as embarrassed as I am after that ridiculous intervention. Who wouldn't be? A declaration of love that made a monumental flop is definitely something that will be remembered. Who else has had the privilege of being rejected publicly and without hesitation by the person with whom she just admitted being in love forever? Reed ignores me and continues to address Brittany.
I wasn't going to ask you to marry me, but there's an explanation.
Yes, you were! I told you I found the ring! Brittany stares him down with her arms crossed.
You mean this ring?
Rob reaches into Reed's pocket and pulls out a little box which he opens to reveal a sparkling ring. Exactly! Brittany triumphs. I can see Rob struggling to keep a straight face. What's going on with him?
I think everyone here would like to keep the show going, so let me end the evening with fireworks, he says.
He turns to Anissa, who's watching him, as confused as everyone else.
Anissa, you know I'm not very good with words, but you are the woman of my dreams, and have been since the day I met you,
he says as he slowly gets on one knee.
I wanted everyone to know that, so when I decided I wanted to spend the rest of my life with you, I asked Reed to help me plan a party with all of our friends and family, so that everyone could be a witness of how I feel about you. I'm sorry things went a little haywire. I didn't plan for everything that happened here tonight, but I did plan for this ring.
I have a hard time realizing what's going on, but not Anissa. She rushes over to Rob and falls to her knees to cut him off with a fiery kiss. The guests erupt with cheers and whistles. As Rob helps her to stand, Anissa tells him, You're sorry? You have nothing to be sorry about. I'll never forget my proposal. That's what you wanted to do, right? Her falsely worried expression makes everyone laugh. I need to make sure after everything that just happened. Rob takes her hand and lays a kiss on her palm. He holds up the ring.
I can't blame you, but I promise you this ring was meant for you. You're the prettiest, kindest, smartest woman I've ever met. I can't imagine my life without you, so will you marry me?
Yes, I will! Her voice, clear and full of emotion, leaves no doubt about how she's feeling. Rob slides the ring on her finger before leaning over to kiss her tenderly. Everyone applauds, and I feel tears welling up. You only need to see their faces bursting with happiness to know beyond any doubt how much they're in love. While everyone is congratulating them, I'm slowly coming to realize what all this means. And I feel a huge weight pressing on my shoulders. I've done something I'm never going to be able to take back. How could I make such a mistake? I have to apologize to Reed and Brittany, but then I remember that the problem wasn't that Reed was planning to propose to his girlfriend, it was that said girlfriend is cheating on him, so maybe I'd better let them work it out on their own. Now that the damage is done, maybe it's a chance for them to put all the cards on the table and reevaluate their relationship. I walk up to Rob and Anissa to congratulate them, and Rob winks at me.
I always knew you were in love with him.
Really? Anissa asks him. You never said anything to me. Don't you think you should have shared such a secret with your future wife? Before he can respond to her, I cut in. The two of you are cute, but your future husband is talking nonsense. However, you realized you had feelings for him when you thought he was going to propose to Brittany? I can't say I would have dared to do what you did, but if this is true love... Anissa hesitates. Anissa, no, I promise you. Rob is just teasing me. I don't have feelings for Reed. That declaration was a mistake, nothing more. Unwilling to let that comment slide, Rob insists.
I admit nothing of the sort. I do know, though, that it's not because you're in love with Reed that you interfered. I also know that you feel guilty. It's written all over your face. Don't be. Reed won't hold it against you. Believe me.
Does Rob know something? Does he know that Brittany is unfaithful?
You did him a favor.
He goes on while Anissa looks at him sternly. Rob, you don't want us to start this new part of our lives on the wrong foot. You can't talk that way about your brother's girlfriend.
Excuse me, I thought that when you said yes, you accepted all my faults, and you agreed to support me against everyone and everything, even myself. I can see how mistaken I was. At the first opportunity, you threatened me with reprisals.
I envy you, I say in a soft voice, stopping their bickering.
Summer, is everything okay?
Rob turns serious again and looks at me with concern. Anissa mirrors his expression. Yeah, of course. But truth is, I made a mistake. And no matter how many excuses I make for myself, I have to fix it. I explain with a weak smile.
Tell me you're not going to apologize to Brittany,
he pleads. I have to. And I have to apologize to everyone. Especially you two. I'm sorry I ruined such a precious moment of your life. Anissa gives me a reassuring smile. Don't be. I was telling the truth when I said it was perfect for me. Besides, we're talking about Rob. You didn't expect everything to go smoothly and uneventfully, did you? Of course I understand how you feel about Brittany. I feel bad for her too, but I'm sure she and Reed will be fine. They'll get through this without any serious damage if they love each other. It's not like Reed's cheating on her or he's in love with you. I don't know what she sees in my eyes, but she apologizes immediately. I'm sorry, Summer. It's just that, I put an end to her awkward apology. No worries. I knew that Reed wasn't in love with me, but I have to admit that getting rejected in a matter of seconds was a blow to my ego. Both of them know that I'm trying to make light of the situation, although clearly my heart isn't in it. Summer, it's going to be all right, Anissa says softly, and Rob nods. I wish I could be as optimistic as they are. I, for one, believe that nothing between Reed and me will ever be the same again. I don't see how it could be otherwise. Jenna approaches and, without much ado, asks them to excuse us and takes me aside. Is it true? What? Don't play dumb with me. Are you in love with Reed? Jenna, you know better than to ask me a question like that. I shake my head in exaggerating disbelief, but she's not ready to let me win this time. Oh no, you're not getting off that easy. I'm not Reed. I know you'd never do something like that without having an important reason. So, explain yourself. Right now. Jenna, I had one too many drinks and I wasn't thinking straight. I made an error in judgment. I try to laugh it off like it was all a silly, drunken mistake, but my laughter cuts off with a strangled garble when I hear,
"An error in judgment?"
Reed's brittle tone leaves no doubt as to his mood. I don't blame him. He's probably wondering in what parallel universe he's landed. The effects of the champagne wore off. I have all my faculties now, and I don't know how to deal with the situation. I can't tell him why I did something so crazy, but I can't keep pretending that I'm in love either. Despite what Jenna said just a few moments ago, she doesn't hesitate to take my side. Reed, calm down. She made a mistake.
You may be her best friend and used to making excuses for her, but I'm not going to follow your example. She intentionally sabotaged my relationship just because she couldn't accept the fact that, for once, someone else was going to be in the spotlight.
He hisses through gritted teeth. You think I made that declaration to steal Brittany's moment? I can't hide my irritation. Yes, I made a mistake, but his reasoning is beyond ridiculous.
No, I don't think anything. I know.
Then you don't know me at all. I match my words to a cold glare, trying to hide the sadness I feel at the idea that he thinks I'm that kind of person.
On the contrary, I know you too well. You see yourself as a princess. You always have, and you can't bear not to be the center of the world.
My mouth opens to defend myself, but he's only getting started.
You only care about yourself. You offended me, ruined Anissa's proposal, and humiliated Brittany. I don't want to see you ever again.
His voice carried, and now the looks on me are mostly compassionate. Taking in the spectators, I meet his parents' gaze and read their kind expression that they're caught in the crossfire. How can they support me without betraying Reed? The embarrassing silence is interrupted by Aunt Tessa's voice.
For a moment there, I thought he was going to admit that he's in love with her too. I was wrong. I always thought those two were meant for each other.
She comes up to me and gently pats my back.
Don't worry, honey. Sooner or later, he'll come to his senses. And if you're patient, you'll win his heart. I've no doubt about that.
Oh, God. Things are even worse than I feared. Not only does Reed hate me, but I also have to live with the knowledge that everyone thinks I'm heartbroken, and that I'm waiting for Reed to reciprocate my feelings. Their pity is written all over their faces as they look at me. That's just great. Straightening my shoulders, I keep my cool, and I try to put an end to this badly performed play, though I feel like my knees might buckle at any moment. I get up on a chair and clap my hands. As long as I'm the center of attention, I might as well take matters into my own hands and make sure that everyone has heard my message. Can I have your attention for a minute, please? I know you're all shocked by my declaration, and I don't blame you. I apologize for ruining your evening. I have no excuse for what I did, and I can assure you that this evening will forever be the worst of my life. At least, I hope so, I add, triggering a few laughs. I meet Reed's gaze, which is far from being understanding like those of the people around us. He shakes his head as if he has lost faith in humanity before bursting out of the room. I manage to say a few more words before asking Jenna to take me home with her. Being the incredible friend she is, she doesn't harass me with questions during the ride. When we arrive home, she prepares her guest room and leaves me in peace. Although I don't sleep a wink, I wake up ready to fight. I'll apologize to Reed, and he's going to understand. He has to understand. The only problem is that I don't know if I should mention the scene in the garden. It would be easy, but also devastating. If there's ever a chance he and Brittany will make up, I have to keep it a secret. But do I want them to reconcile? I've been debating this in my head all night, but I still don't have an answer. I have to admit that I need more time before I face Reed. I better give Brittany time to have a discussion with him. Maybe she'll tell him the truth. Once I've made up my mind, I still have to deal with Hurricane Jenna, who's determined to find out what drove me to declare my non-existent feelings in front of everyone. I'm proud to tell you that I managed to hold my tongue. I don't want to give her any ammunition to go after Brittany or talk to Reed. I leave her place around 11, and I barricade myself in my house for the day. I only speak briefly with Mrs. Ryan, who's worried about me, and insists that things can only get better. She doesn't ask any questions about why I behaved so irrationally, and I'm grateful to her for that. I spend the rest of my time thinking about what I should do with my life now. I had decided to stay here, look for a job, and settle down for a while. But I don't know if it's a good idea anymore. Maybe I should go back to Sifnos and give everyone time to forget about what happened. I, for one, can't stop blaming myself. Jenna calls me several times, always trying to make me talk, and it's during one of her calls that she informs me that Reed told their mother that he and Brittany were over. Your grandiose declaration of love has at least had a positive effect. She's clearly pleased with how things have turned out, but I'm not in the mood to celebrate. The next morning, I decide that a second day at home, alone with my dark thoughts, isn't for me. I can't just sit within four walls and wait for things to change. It's up to me to change them. A phone call to Rachel, Reed's secretary, informs me he'll be at his office late this evening. I make a detour to our favorite pizza place and walk toward his office around 6. I'd be lying if I said I feel confident about my chances to get him to even talk to me. I want to turn around and head home every 2 seconds. Good evening, darling. I was just about to leave, but he's inside. Rachel greets me with a hug when I arrive. Good luck. Thanks, I'll need it. I've never seen him in such a state before. She whispers, eyeing his office. I'm not surprised. My heart pounds as my anxiety reaches new heights. I wish Rachel a good night, and I take a deep breath before knocking at his office door.
Come in.
He's expecting Rachel if I'm to believe the smile on his face that fades as soon as he meets my gaze.
I see you still know how to surprise people.
I hold out the pizza box toward him, ignoring his sarcastic tone. Peace offering. Your favorite.
What part of I don't want to see you ever again didn't you understand?
His icy, detached tone sends my heart to hell. The pizza box trembles in my hand, and I set it on the edge of his desk before I drop it. I understood perfectly well every word you said, but I couldn't let things stay like this between us. I made a mistake, and I'd like us to talk about it. I'd like you to let me apologize properly.
Of course, you're welcome to do that. Who am I to deny you such a favor?
He beckons me to sit down and crosses his arms, staring at me wryly. I know you don't believe me, but I'm truly sorry. I succeed in maintaining eye contact in spite of my desire to flee.
Why is that? Because you managed to stir up trouble in my relationship, or because you stole the spotlight from Anissa?
Anissa doesn't have a problem with what happened. She told me that. Clearly, this was the last thing I should have said because I can see his eyes turning the color of a stormy sea.
Anyone would say the same thing if they were as nice as Anissa. Don't pretend that you're not using your dazzling smile and your sweet, lovable persona to manipulate people. I'm sorry, but I'm not falling for it. You need to accept the fact that for once in your life, someone's not under your spell.
Okay, you've made yourself perfectly clear. You don't want to forgive me, but you could at least make the effort to understand that I wasn't myself. I'd been drinking.
No. That excuse won't fly with me. If you made that statement, it's because you were jealous. You were jealous of Brittany because you wished you were her.
I opened my eyes wide. So, if you think I was telling the truth, that I'm in love with you, then why won't you try to understand me? Why won't you forgive me for losing my mind for a moment, since I'm in love? And I only acted so irrationally because I couldn't bear the thought of you getting engaged to someone else. He emits a bitter laugh and leans forward, looking at me straight in the eyes.
Let me see if I get things right. Your plan is to reverse the roles and accuse me of being the insensitive one? Of being the one who isn't understanding enough?
That's not what I'm doing. I'm just saying that if you think I'm in love with you, you should understand that I only acted out of desperation. I push the pizza box toward him and watch him take a slice and bite down on it before he answers.
So let's take things from the start. You declared you were in love with me. And I have two options. Either believe your declaration and try to understand that you had no choice, that your heart couldn't bear the idea of me getting married to another woman, or deduce that you are a superficial person who only cares about herself, acts without thinking, and wreaks havoc wherever she goes. But let's go even further. Let's say that you acted this way because you had one too many drinks. That last theory raises another question. Why did you drink so much when you know it affects you? I warned you not to. In the end, we come to the same conclusion. You drank because you couldn't bear seeing me ready to ask another woman to marry me.
Fine, let's go with that interpretation. It leads me to the same question. Why won't you try to understand where I came from and forgive me?
Simple. If you were a decent person, you would never act like that. First of all, you should have told me that you overheard my conversation with Rob instead of jumping to conclusions. However, I shouldn't be surprised. You will always act without thinking, which more often than not puts you into impossible situations. What annoys me the most is that even though I believe that you are superficial, that you live in an ideal world where everyone is eager to help you continue to live in your bubble, I've always thought that you know how to behave responsibly if the situation required it. So even if you are in love with me, you should have acted like an adult and not tried to sabotage my relationship. I always defended you when Brittany tried to convince me that you were in love with me. But you proved me wrong.
I'm trying to ignore that comment about Brittany's silly accusation, and I'm rather proud when I count to 10 and manage not to retort. I even find it in me to apologize again. Reed, I'm sorry. Honestly, I'm willing to do whatever it takes so you and Brittany get back together. If you're sure that... He cuts in.
Get back together? What makes you think we broke up?
I thought that after... I search in vain for words. So they're still together. Jenna misunderstood. Well, good for them then. Yet I find it hard to say that I'm happy for them.
Did you think your little game was going to make me reconsider my relationship with her? Why would I do that?
I just assumed, seeing her reaction, that... I trail off, not knowing what else to say.
Brittany and I are still together. And I guess, given that you don't have feelings for me, and you just made a mistake, you must be happy for me. Isn't that what you were saying 2 minutes ago? That you were willing to do whatever it takes to help me fix my relationship since you're the one who's responsible for the rough patch it's going through?
I realize that I took too long to answer when he looks at me with contempt.
I knew you were lying. I don't have the time or inclination to delve into your motives. But there's one thing I know for sure. Your act was deliberate, and I will never forgive you for that.
But you'd forgive someone else if they did the same thing, I argue, glaring right back at him.
What's that supposed to mean?
You'd forgive Brittany, Jenna, or Anissa if any of them behaved inconsiderately. But I can't afford to make a mistake. Just admit it. My mistake makes you happy. Now you can look down on me without feeling guilty. The great Reed Ryan has struck again. He has proof that I, Summer Reed, am a witch. The flighty, irresponsible, selfish princess he's always thought I am. I know I shouldn't antagonize him. I came here to apologize, not fight. But I don't feel like playing nice anymore. It's obvious that no matter what I say, he's not going to change his mind about me.
Summer, you had the audacity to announce in front of 40 people that you've been in love with me for years on the evening you thought I was getting engaged. Tell me, In what universe are you the victim of my prejudices?
You may not admit it, Reed, but you don't like me. You tried to convince me the other day that we're friends, that we have a solid relationship. But in the end, I was right. You're not teasing me. You're insulting me. You don't trust my judgment. You think I'm capable of the worst. I accuse with a sad shake of my head.
You're right. I don't like you anymore, Summer. I was telling the truth, however, when I said I appreciated your candor. And the fact that I could be honest with you. Nothing I ever said was meant as an insult. I only challenged you because I didn't want you to get hurt while wearing your rose glasses. I never despised you. I always was ready to give you the benefit of the doubt.
You're lying to yourself. If you didn't despise me, you wouldn't be so eager to condemn me. Did you ever wonder, if only for a moment, if I might have a good reason for behaving this way? A reason other than being in love with you? A reason that might justify what I did?
So?
So what?
Did you have a valid reason for behaving so inconsiderately?
I stay there, looking at him like a deer caught in the headlights of a car. I'm afraid if I blink, he'll figure everything out. The silence stretches on, and he sighs with a defeated look on his face.
You see, Summer, you're still playing the same old tune. You're trying to get the last word in. That's all that matters to you. But I never like people who will stop at nothing to have the last word.
Yet you seem not to mind. I regret my words right away and stop.
Please, continue, he says, his words sounding like a dare.
Clearing my throat and steeling my spine, I tell him, I have nothing more to say. But I want you to know that you're right about one thing. I like to have the last word, and I haven't said my last word yet. You may think I only care about myself, but one day I'll prove you wrong.
No one's asking you to prove anything.
Maybe not, but since you know me so well, you know that I need everyone to love me. Therefore, I have no other choice but to persevere and make you change your mind about me.
Don't get your hopes up. Get used to that. I may not have a choice but cross paths with you in the future. You are my sister's best friend, after all. But don't think for a second that my opinion of you will change.
We'll see about that, I challenge. Actually, I just thought of something. If you're so determined to hate me, maybe it's because my words touched a nerve. Maybe you realize that you and Brittany aren't the perfect couple, because if you're certain she's the one, all you have to do is apologize to her and convince her that I mean nothing to you and that she shouldn't pay any attention to me.
Who says that isn't what I'm going to do?
His words fall on me like a glass of iced water. But I manage to keep a straight face. Of course he's planning on doing that. He already told me that they didn't break up. What was I thinking, trying to get a rise out of him? So much the better. I won't have a reason to feel guilty anymore. I have faith in your persuasion skills. I get up and head for the door, but before I step out, I turn to him and add, a bit of advice, though. Avoid proposing to her in my presence next time. You know how good I am at surprising you, and I'd hate to be the source of your problems again. Who knows, I might still be in love with you and unable to keep my feelings to myself. Plus, I'd hate having to live with the guilt that I broke up such a perfect couple. I don't wait for his answer. I walk out of his office and let the tears flow. I may have been able to pretend that everything's fine, that I will find a way to prove to him that I'm not this horrible and malevolent person he sees me as. But right now, I need to get away from all this. This trip back home has been a nightmare from the very beginning, and I can feel my smile fading away a little more every day. I go home and start packing immediately. The time for hesitation is over. I don't recognize myself anymore, and it wouldn't take much for me to agree with Reed about what a terrible person I am. I've become someone I don't like. When I call Jenna to tell her about my decisions, she exclaims, "You're leaving? Don't tell me it's because of Reed." No, of course not. Summer! Fine. I'd rather not be here while he hates me, I admit, sniffing when tears threaten to fall again. Reed doesn't hate you, she says very unconvincingly. Of course he does. And I don't blame him. But it'll pass. I hope so. Don't be sad, I'll be back soon. Don't think I'm going to abandon ship. But if he's happy with Brittany, if he wants to stay in this relationship, I'd better stay away for now. It'll give him time to put the pieces together and mend his relationship with Brittany. I'll come back when he's ready to listen to me. Summer, I told you that Reed broke up with Brittany. Well, you're wrong. He said that. I promise you it's true. I confirmed it with Rob. I shake my head. If that's true, he'd probably lied to prevent me from going after him. He's convinced that I'm only thinking of how to lure him into my malicious siren arms. I have no idea what's going on in his head. He refuses to talk to me, too. Oh, Jenna, I'm sorry. Reed's right. I made a big mess of everything. Summer, stop that right now. He has no idea what he really wants. Personally, I think he's more confused than you are. You know what? She says with an abrupt shift in tone. I'm going to pack my bags and meet you at the airport. I think it's time I make some spontaneous decisions of my own.
Because mine are so successful that you dream of getting the same results?
She pays no attention to the skepticism coating each word and continues with unflappable positivity. No, because I've decided I'm not afraid to take risks anymore. What time does your plane leave so I can book a ticket on the same flight? Actually, I don't have a ticket. I was planning on making a big detour before landing somewhere in the Cyclades. After all, nobody's waiting for me anywhere. Even better, she says with enthusiasm. So, we'll meet at the station in 2 hours and take the first train that's leaving the station? More or less, I agree, knowing there's no way I can change her mind now. Perfect. She hangs up. On the way to the station, I try to convince myself that someday Reed will forgive me. The hard truth is, I may have tried to save him some heartache, but all I did was cause him pain. What hurts me the most isn't that he thinks I'm an unscrupulous person, but the glimmer of sadness I saw in his eyes. Being an optimist by nature, though, I hope the day I'll come back to make amends will arrive soon. I cling to that hope as the train leaves the station 2 hours later, and I smile at Jenna, who keeps babbling about what wonderful surprises this trip has in store for us. 7 months later. Summer, it's time for us to go home. Jenna, tanned and more beautiful than ever, is standing in front of the blue door of my little bungalow with her straw hat on her head and 2 cocktails in her hands. She has changed completely since we arrived in Milos, a gorgeous island in the Cyclades, after 3 months of an extraordinary journey across Europe. Now she knows what she wants to do, and I'm going to help make her dream come true. It's time I put some of my money to work. Although we did occasionally talk about the day we'd head back home, neither of us was in a hurry. Jenna works as a private English tutor, and I work in a gift shop. Until the end of October, we went for a swim twice a day, but since we are now in the heart of winter, our days are filled with trips to nearby islands, long walks on the beach, cocktails, laughter, and great food from the local taverns. Our everyday life is idyllic. The only moments of sadness I experience occur when I think of Reed and our non-existent relationship. Seeing Jenna's serious expression, I know she has an important reason to want to go home. What's going on? I ask, as I set down the magazine I was reading to take one of the cocktail glasses she passes to me. Reed's looking for an assistant. He's got so much work, Rachel can't keep up. She called me and said, it's time we go home. I agree. Me too. I clink my glass to hers. Time to set the record straight. I can't wait to see you in action. Although Rob, Anissa, and Mr. and Mrs. Ryan came to visit us for a few days, Jenna rarely talks with Reed, and as expected, he never asks about me. It's about time he hears from me. A week later. My heels click on the smoke-oaked parquet floors, and I take a deep breath before striding towards Reed's office. A sense of déjà vu overcomes me, but I manage to ignore the knot in my stomach and my tight throat. I've imagined this scene in my head so many times that nothing will stop me from going through with it. I knock and push open the door. Good morning. Happy to see me? I hope the grin I wear seems confident enough to mask my anxiety. Summer. He doesn't even blink when he sees me standing in front of him. He just looks down at his computer and asks in a weary voice, at the risk of repeating myself, what didn't you understand when I said I never want to see you again? Refusing to get intimidated, I approach his desk. At the risk of repeating myself, what didn't you understand when I said that one day I'd come back to prove to you that I'm not an evil witch? Besides, I need a job. And word on the street is you need an assistant. What do you say we start afresh? I reach my hand out to him, still wearing a smile, glad he can't hear how fast my heart is beating. Hi, I'm Summer. I'm here for the assistant position. This has been Just in Time, written by Andie Madison. Read for you by Ashton Haugen. Copyright 2020 by Andie Madison and 7 Seasons. Production copyright by Andie Madison and 7 Seasons.